good evening, everyone, and welcome to Green White Checker TV. Tonight we have race number 2 of the Area 51 DarkHorse series here tonight at Chicagoland Speedway. Drivers just now kicking off their qualifying laps to get our starting grid for tonight. It looks like just under about 20 drivers taking part tonight. I'll say after making the trek back from Motegi here to Chicagoland. So this one a 1.5 mile D-shaped oval and a bit of a more abrasive track. So I think tire wear will likely play a role into this one. So it's gonna be a lot of fun to see what these drivers have in store for us tonight. Fuel window is hearing is roughly around the 45-55 lap window. But again, knowing some of these sneaky drivers, expect to see some guys go maybe even a little further. However, I think from start to finish, I do not think a one-stopper is possible. Someone will probably try, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. And you can also see right now, ambient temperature 73 degrees. However, track temperature 111 degrees, so very warm on track. Also will make these cars a little more slick. And then also we're going to pull up here our schedule for the season here again. As you saw last week at Motegi, our first race. And then tonight at Chicagoland, followed by Atlanta. Then a bit of a break for the month of May for those that I say, especially we'll have some people traveling to watch the Indy 500. So definitely want to make sure we get some of our drivers back and a little bit of a break to get everything kind of back on cue, because also going to be starting up our regular Super Speedway season here coming up on Sunday for the Super Speedway Truck Series. So not too far away from that as well. And we'll get back to our normal 3-race rotation between Sunday nights, Tuesday nights, and Thursday nights. So won't have a race this Thursday, but starting on Sunday, we'll be back full schedule. So definitely stay tuned for that. And also definitely want to wish a happy belated Mother's Day to all the moms that may be watching. So I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. And yeah, so if you're watching, hopefully you enjoyed tonight's event as well. Should be joined very shortly by a Mr. Andrew Wood. Actually, I think I see him spying in over here, getting some of the stuff, headsets and microphone stuff sorted away, because he's got to sound perfect, right, Andrew?
Yeah, it's one of those things that you got to pamper yourself and make yourself sound nice and crisp, ready for the broadcast here. But all my gremlins have been sorted for now, at least. And yeah, I'm looking forward to a nice race here at Chicagoland. I'm very happy to see that we have quite a few drivers here compared to last week. It definitely seems like some teams are on a budget, trying their best not to waste all their funds at Motegi back here at Chicagoland. And this race tends to be a little bit more pack race like. So you were mentioning before about the fuel window. With these pack races and everything, it tends to fall more towards those guys that want to save a little bit of fuel. So it may be a little bit of a stretch to make it on one stop, but it may actually work out if some of these guys play their cards right. But I imagine in a pack race like this, it always risks the chance for a caution falling or something like that. So these guys are probably we're going to see a bunch of guys going for it up front, and we're going to see a bunch of guys trying to save some fuel in the back. So qualifying is not going to mean too much here from my experience racing at this track.
Yeah, it'll be fun to see. Like I said, there's probably going to be kind of two trains of thought. One, track position, the other, fuel savings. And I mean, we've got some sneaky fuel savers in this grid. So it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, caution timing will always play a big role. But then also, I think just the pit strategy, I think that's going to be the big one tonight. I was hearing drivers talk about getting onto pit road here, very difficult. It's going to be critical for these guys to make sure they're calling out their pit entries. That way those guys around them can adjust and move up a lane or two or whatever needs to happen. And like we saw as well, sometimes unfortunately locking up the tires, trying to get onto pit road, that'll drift them up the track and possibly into the path of another car. So these drivers are going to hopefully got some practice laps in that qualifying session, practice session, I should say, getting in and out of pit road, because we've had a pretty good tendency. We usually see at least a green flag pit stop in these things over the course of the season. And like I said, but a lot of times the hiccups happen during the green flag cycle. So I think that's going to be the place to watch tonight.
One of the big things for Chicagoland too is entering turn or exiting turn 2 there. The wall kind of sneaks up on you and it's a little bit rounded. So the eyesight's a little bit kind of deceiving exactly how you're going to take the exit of that corner. So some of these guys may want to take the high line, but that wall will come up very quick on them.
Yeah, so it looks like a new thing to the season right now. So you see showing the cars on grid. That is because we've got a 5 minute warm up here. I believe probably some time for the admins and powers that be kind of maybe go over some of the rules and regulations and such. So let's say we'll have a little bit of time as well. What we can do is we can kind of go over our starting grid for tonight to show you where those drivers are going to kick off here this evening. Potentially, it may not actually let us do that until we actually have the grid rolling. So we'll have to wait and see on that one. But so yes, I'll say some little things that we're learning here and there. And yeah, I see a lot of drivers on the grid, but nobody rolling as of yet. But what we can do is roll through a couple of really nice looking paint schemes. Say Christopher, I really like. There's a lot of nice shine on that 13 car. Saying, I mean, we talked to him last season, and I think he's got one thing in mind here this season, Andrew, and that's getting that win. Doesn't matter when or where, but he wants to get that off of his list of things to accomplish here. So first off of the season.
Yeah, it definitely seems like Stouffer he's not going to run a full season this season. He was a little more available last season, I believe, in my chats with him, but he wants to come for these pack races, and he knows how to get up to the front. So commenting on his paint too, like Stouffer always finds a way to make his car look nice, shiny, glossy, all sorts of fun stuff there. So he has not disappointed here, and yeah, we'll have to see how he manages this race here.
Yeah, say speaking of shiny cars, another one. Say I've got a lot of practice with this one, and it actually looks like our car overlay pictures aren't coming through correctly, so we'll pop that off for now. Say it's Jim Brooks in the 51 machine. Say he's also a fan of the chrome, so it's a chrome green on his car. I've got some pretty good expertise on that one because I may or may not have been involved in painting that car for him. But yeah, so I was able to do a little bit of bribery to get him on track here tonight. So hopefully he has a good time tonight.
Very meticulous you are.
I am, and I'll get in trouble too if the race doesn't go well tonight. It's like, hey man, you made me race and it didn't go to plan. So hopefully a good race for him. And I was already watching him in practice. He was running the top side. Say Nick DeGroot, you see the smoke, you see the donuts there. I think he's planning ahead here. He's going to be going for the win here tonight in that number 89 machine. Last week's winner, Charles Teed there. And I say we talk about chrome, the blue on this one I really like it. It's got a little shine to it, but it's almost like a matte chrome. So I'm not sure whose painter is on that one, but that's some good work on that car.
Yeah, I think actually these folks don't know what to do with this warm-up session, so that's why you saw Nick DeGroot kind of playing around a little bit there. So looks like the admins have advanced the session here. So I believe it may have been like a dummy placement issue of some sort. Maybe someone was trying to get into the session and couldn't do it, but it looks like we're going to get rolling here on the grid.
Yep, so say now we should be able to pull up our starting grid, and there we go. And on pole position, I saw him chime in a little earlier. Our Bruno Miranda, our season 1 or 2023 season champion, I believe it was. He was rooting on Adriano Forporti. Adriano on pole position here, so Bruno already getting some good vibes out to his friend. Matt Wagner will be outside of row number 1. Then you got Yari Brupacher, Eric Peterson, row 2. Nick DeGroot, Gary Laverne there, row 3. As I know you've been talking plenty about Gary, how he just seems to keep improving over the course of these races. And it's a good qualifying for him. Last week's winner, Charles Teed, Craig Forsyth next to him. Then Dan Marrera and William Swenson. And then in row number 6, I'll get these rows right eventually, Jim Brooks, Michael Carrillo. And then we finish off the order there. You've got Jeff Heisong, Christopher, Casey Putsky, Elmer Joseph, Brad Adams, Richard Sanchez, and Bill Colley will be our 19 starters for tonight. And I think you may be right, too, because I'm just right now seeing Jeff Heisong not on grid here. So we'll see if he's able to pop in. But right now everybody's rolling to get their warm-up lap underway.
Maybe he's the one that we were waiting for. Let's just throw a 5-minute warm-up in and let the guy get to the back of the field. So I don't know. I'm just kind of speculating here. But one comment I wanted to make, I'm going to piggyback on your Gary Laverne situation here. One of these guys races around these guys every week, and you could definitely tell the cream rising to the top on some of these drivers. Some of these guys don't want to be just kind of left behind. They want to be able to race with these guys. So I'm sure Gary is talking to these guys during the week, and they're saying, hey, how do I get better? How do I figure this stuff out? And you could see it just very clearly on how he's been driving lately, that he's been climbing his way up the grid little by little. So it's a great story. I was one of those guys back when I first started oval racing too, and it's like, how do I do this stuff? If you're very committed to it, you're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, no, exactly right. So I have seen for a split second, I saw Jeff Heisong. It looked like his card popped up, but hopefully he does make it in. We'll keep an eye on him. However, you can see that pace truck make that sharp left, hand it over to our front row. Adriano for Porty, Matt Wagner. Initial start always on the green flag. And green flag is out, and we are down and away. You already see some drivers moving to the outside. Saw Craig Force that he was eyeballing that move. Right now, Adriano's going to lead him into one.
Yeah, these guys are going to take the low line for the first couple laps, get themselves all kind of wound up and everything, and then you're going to see quite a few guys going up high trying to find that high line, because that high line will eventually take shape. But for now, let's just run 2 wide, 5 or 6 deep as we see going onto the front stretch.
Yeah, Nick DeGroot had a huge head of steam going down the backstretch. You can see now, again, like you said, everybody's jockeying, trying to figure out where they want to position their cars, get the clean air. And that's going to put them 3 wide to the front. Adriano, Matt Wagner, Yari Brubacher here, all trying to find that clean air.
Chicagoland never disappoints with the pack racing scenario, and it's still obviously the second lap or so, but these guys are going to be side by side for a while, and they're going to try and find a way to slot into their position.
Yeah, so again, this is where tires are at their best. So at this point, they should all be coming up into temperature. And so right now, like I said, we'll have to see kind of where the track kind of progresses. Right now, track temp 111. And you see right there, Yari's trying to steal a big draft there off of Adriano. Adriano's going to pretty much, I think, like you said, live on that white line for as long as he can. But I think over time, though, I think that these tires are going to start to wear. We saw Charles T there just kind of touch the apron for a little bit. Able to save it, though. But yeah, I think you'll start to see him probably start to slide a little bit off the bottom. And like you said, I think at some point these guys are going to start migrating to the top. And kind of like I expected to see Jim Brooks already rim riding in that number 51 car.
And just a reminder that this is a clean air fight. So you're going to be trying to find any sort of clean air in any line you possibly can, especially now that these cars are wound up on lap 4. It's just a matter of trying to make sure you guess better than the car ahead of you. That's how you're going to make positions up, whether it be in the center line, the bottom line, or the high line.
And right now, the shiny cars are the ones that we talked about. They're doing the best right now. +6 for Jim, +8 for Christopher. So say the chrome car may be the way to go here short run in this race. So right now, those guys are making that high line work extremely well. I mean, look at Jim here. He's already cracked the top 5 now, working on Yari on the outside. I think you see Nick DeGroot. I think he saw that, and he's jumped to the top side now, too, to see if he can kind of carry that momentum forward. But eventually, I think that outside line is going to stall out just that little bit here, just due to the fact that he kind of hit that wall of air.
That was definitely that turn 2 situation that I was mentioning at the beginning of the broadcast there. It seems that that wall comes up pretty fast, and some of these drivers are not expecting it, especially if they're feeling very comfortable running in the line that they're running. And eventually you try and ride higher and higher and higher, and next thing you know, that turn 2 wall just creeps up on you. And watching Casey Pahutsky back here in P14 fighting so much dirty air, he really has to throw his throttle completely off into turn 1 and make sure he doesn't just kind of drift up the track there and find that turn 2 wall exit.
Yeah, saying especially now that he's got the 69 there, Willing Swenson to his outside. It's the same thing. He's got to kind of try to balance that, like you said, the dirty air, and then try to keep that thing held as tight as he can, not to drift up into him. At the same time, though, this is probably where he's able to save a ton of fuel right now. Running that bottom lane, probably running a low fuel map as well. Again, these cars run fuel map 1 full rich, fuel map 5 for full lean for ovals, and of course caution map for fuel 8, or map 8, I should say, for full fuel savings. Of course, you lose a ton of speed there. And then 6 and 7 are kind of the road course maps, if you will. So, but right now it's kind of a mixed bag. And the one I always point at for fuel saving, he's right now the one that's kind of fallen back just a tiny bit, and that's that 99 of Craig Forsyth. So, I wonder if Craig's trying to work some more fuel magic out of that car.
And why do you think that is? You think he's trying to play around with his fuel maps a little bit right now? He's probably sitting in his car right now saying, hey, fuel map 5 is not working because I'm losing way too much time. Let me click it up to fuel map 4, fuel map 3, and try and get a little bit of that draft back. And just as I say that, he's catching right back up to the pack again. So you can guarantee he's playing around with fuel maps right there. So good call out on that one, Kyle.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly it is. You got to find, I know when I got to race with these guys here and there where a lot of times I would try to just live at fuel map 5, and then there'd be times where I'd actually burn more fuel because, like you said, I'd fall back and I'd have to kind of crank it up a little bit, catch back up, then back it down. Whereas if you find that right map right off the get-go, you can just kind of peg it out at map 4 instead of 5 and hold on to it pretty tight. So, but right now, like I said, that pack racing, I mean, these guys they can get to Adriano, but they haven't been able to get that momentum to the outside of him yet. And that also, this track does make it more difficult as well because of the way it's shaped. There's even a little curve down the backstretch here, so the inside line is actually still even here, the shorter distance. So if you're up a scene, you're actually traveling a little further compared to some of the, oh man, close there between Charles T. Yari Brupacher. As now Yari's going to jump to the inside to grab some draft, but say for Adriano right now, he's pretty much running the shortest distance on this track just because of, again, trying to hold that track position. But eventually I think we'll start to see that right rear start to get a little hot, and I think he'll probably start to drift off the bottom a little bit.
Yeah, we definitely see the pack race continuing. It's starting to thin out a little bit now as we get to like lap 14 or so in this session. So I'm wondering if these guys are going to just throw it into an ultimate fuel map situation right now.
And yeah, I mean, that's a really good point. So you look right now, look at the back of Adriano. He's running the bottom, and you see a whole bunch of guys rim riding it. There's very few cars down at the bottom right now. You see Charles T, pretty much the only one. Yari's going to try to do that slingshot here, see if he can grab some draft off of him. Again, not enough to get too far alongside of him. But right now, these guys all kind of living on that inside line here, or sorry, the outside line, I should say. While Adriano's the one only guy that's kind of really holding the bottom because he's got all the clean air he needs. Whereas you see Teed now just finally able to kind of squeeze back up to the top, and now he's going to stay up top. But yeah, again, you got to go all the way back to. It looks like Casey's also one of those ones we've talked about. He's been kind of dedicated to that inside line. So, and then Matt Wagner, I think, is going full strategy because he started in third, I believe it was, or no, second, I'm sorry. He's all the way back to 14th, so I'm thinking he's backed it way down just right off the bat, saying, you know what, I'm going to take care of my stuff, see if I can save a lot of fuel, maybe try to pull some strategy.
It's definitely one of those things where you want to drop back, but you don't want to drop back too far because then you find yourself in a situation where you're trying to play catch-up. And if you want any indication of how these drivers are saving, look at Jeff Heisong back here in P19. He started from the pit lane, and he could see those guys way up ahead. And he's running all by himself with no draft help. So he's able to catch up to the back of this pack by the end of the first pit stop. That shows how much fuel these guys are saving. A guy that's running full rich trying to catch up versus the pack that's trying to run full lead. So he's probably about 4 seconds behind the pack right now, but you'll see that come down right before the first pit stop begins.
Yeah, and actually, I'm looking at lap times too. He's, well, this time he's about the same. Last time by, he was actually about a 10th quicker than Adriano. So even by himself, I think, again, Adriano's probably not getting the full speed he can out of that car because he's having to try to protect that bottom to keep that lead in the track position. Because yeah, I think that's his best approach right now to try to win this race is just control it. And so I think, like you said, with Jeff, he can kind of move a little bit off the bottom and kind of keep the momentum in that car. I think that's what's been able to keep that lap time up out of that number 18.
We're gonna start thinking about our pit stop shortly here, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think it's Jim just had a little tap to the wall there. Not bad, but a little bit.
Sometimes just a little bit of tap, you don't really feel too much. So we'll have to see if that will affect his car too much. Otherwise, it's still rush hour up here at the front of the pack. It looks like, who's that, Yari and Adriano are swap drafting here. So they're kind of helping each other save a little bit of fuel, but at the same time, they're probably trying to measure each other out to see exactly how or what they got to do to stay in the lead come pit stop time.
Yeah, and I think this is, like you said, too, if these guys all have to make a 2 pit stop race, this is the, oh, man, you saw Yari. He was, yes. I'd say maybe the angle, but he looked very close to Nick DeGroot there. But this might be one of those ones where it's that big risk versus reward like we always talk about. I wonder if there's anybody thinking, you know what, I'm going to try to short pit, see if I can jump these guys through the pit cycle, maybe take that little bit less fuel even potentially. So that'll be the other interesting thing. Like I said, we still got some time to go. probably a little under halfway through the fuel run, depending on kind of, again, how aggressive these guys are running. But obviously the telltale is going to be when we see pit stops happening. So the magic number would be what, lap 63 for those if anybody's going to try to one stop it. But my strategy honestly here, Andrew, is even if I can't one stop it, if I have to two stop it, I want to be the one that pits the latest, just because you see it right there. I think Adriano's starting to lose that rear end like we just talked about, because he was really loose there out of turn 2. Okay.
And as you said, it looks like Nick is seeing the flaws. Nick, being the very experienced driver he's like, okay, you guys are starting to mess up. I'm coming to the front now. I saved a ton of fuel this run. I may not be able to do it in one stop, but I'm going to do my best to get myself in the best position possible. So, you know, I hate to keep bringing out the 19th place car here, but we're going to measure out the full fuel burn situation with Jeff Heisong here. So once he pits, it's going to be the beginning of the pit stop cycle here.
Yeah, that's a great point to know. Is yeah, he was able to get on track start from the pits, and so yeah, right now he's still in the lead lap, and like I said, he's gaining on those guys. So yeah, so really good job by Jeff there, and we've seen the last couple laps. I've been watching Adriano, and he's drifting up about a lane now at minimum off of the bottom coming out of turn 2. You even see here drifting up a fair bit there out of 4. And so this is where maybe, depending on how aggressive you want to be to try to get to the point, Nick can try to time this where he's going to arc it down on exit, see if he can kind of cut underneath that 072. This time you see Adriano held it really tight, but you see right there, you saw exactly what Nick did there. He cut down late, but again, just wasn't close enough to try to make that switch over, and plus Adriano held it down a lot better that last time. So, but I think you're right. I think Nick is starting to see the pace of that 072 drop off just a little bit.
I'm watching the back part of this top 10 here, and some of these guys are getting extremely stuck in dirty air everywhere. These tires are wearing very fast. I can definitely tell just by the behavior that these cars are exhibiting through the second half of turn 1 and 2 here. Looks like Eric Peterson is the one I'm watching the most. He's getting just completely swarmed by everyone. Forsyth first, then Lovern. Looks like Dan Marrero just got him now, and I believe that Pahutsky is going to work on him next. So Peterson's, for lack of a better phrase, not choosing correctly the dirty air situation, but you could see just how much of a turbulent air effect these guys get all the way at the back part of the top 10, especially as these tires wear. You have to choose your line so aggressively where you're swooping from one part of the track down to the other, and it's just hurting everybody behind you, and it's just an accordion effect as you move back through the field. So Eric Peterson's just got to try and guess a little bit better for the cars up ahead of him. Otherwise, he's going to continue to lose some spots here.
Yeah, and that's a tough position to be in, because there's almost points where you kind of feel like you're pinned to the inside, and so I think we've been seeing that a little bit with him there. As you see Charles Teed now trying to work over Yari Brupacher to grab the 4th position, and looks like he's going to get that done. And yeah, so I mean, right now, I'd say Teed's made some good ground. It seems like he's definitely started to get some more pace as the tires have worn. Jim Brooks starting to creep back into the picture as well after he had his earlier, I'd say maybe a little scrub of the wall. Again, I don't think it was enough to really hurt the car. Seems like, he's close there between Yari and Charles there. But up front, though, I'd say Nick is starting to get a lot closer and able to hold it a lot closer here.
Jeff Heisong has now gained 2 seconds on the pack compared to the last time that we spoke. So as this field starts to get a little more strung out in single file, that's also going to push the whole field back towards him. So it's not necessarily that Jeff is going faster, but he is actually catching the back of the field in a more dramatic way, as it were.
Yeah, he's in that draft. Yeah, he's in that draft window now. He's got Bill Colley in his sights, and last time by he was about 0.2 quicker than leaders.
Yeah, so we'll definitely look for Heisong to pit first, regardless of what anybody else does. But once Jeff pits, then we'll have a better idea of how many laps after that everybody is saved doing their fuel save situation.
Yeah, I feel like the 2 earliest pitters will most likely be, or required to pit, I should say, on fuel, would likely be Adriano and Jeff. Just again, the clean air for both of those guys. But then you kind of wonder, some of these guys have been aggressive from the get-go, like Nick DeGroot and Christopher. So, I mean, it's very possible they've been up on the fuel maps as well. And like I said, we're still probably a little over 10 laps away, I would guess, for the fuel window. So we'll have to keep an eye and see. And Last time by, actually, Haisong just ran his fastest lap of the race, and he's there. He's caught the pack, so really good job for him to stick it out there. Now, and actually last time by, he just ran the fastest lap of the race, 25:13, half a second quicker than our leaders. And so I was going to mention that too. He's had so much clean air. His tires might be in pretty good shape because he hasn't had to play defense. He's just been able to run the line he wants. But now he's going to have to make some big adjustments to try to figure out, okay, now what do I do in this dirty air that I haven't dealt with for these previous 35 laps?
Well, another reason why he probably ran the fastest lap is because he finally caught that draft, like you said. And once you catch that draft, it just sucks you right up there, no matter what your tire situation is. So when you're sitting in like 4th, 5th, 6th spot, and you're fighting dirty air, as the run goes on, you're going to get slower and slower. But in Jeff's case, yeah, he's been wearing his tires out little by little single, but as soon as you catch that sniff of drafts in these cars, it just completely vacuums you right up there. So it's no surprise to me that that slapped the race there all the way from the back. So these guys are all saving fuel. Jeff's in a different strategy altogether, so he's going to try and make his way forward and just pick up spots as he can, as he goes by Bill Colley right there, picking up his first position of the day.
Yeah, I see Nick Digger is starting to get ever closer and able to stay alongside ever longer as well of Adriano. So I think the kind of the crossover point is starting to happen where I think the momentum on the top side is starting to maybe be a little bit more powerful than that inside line. So again, we'll have to keep an eye and see. And again, you can see Adriano drifting about a groove off the bottom there. Still holding lead. I think he's been able to lead every lap so far. But someone that's creeping into the mix right now, adding his name into this party, though, Craig Forsyth in that number 99 machine. He's got about 6/10 and growing on Jari Brupacher there. And you can see also, look at the windscreen of this thing. So they can't wipe anything off. They got to wait for pit stop. So Craig also having to deal with a fair bit of tire rubber and stuff on that aero screen.
I think we're getting very close to the pit stop situation right now. I'm still watching Jeff. I don't know if Jeff is trying to save a teaspoon of fuel at a time now that he's sitting here in the pack. But it might just be kind of futile at this point, just trying to figure out his best course forward. But I imagine these guys are going to start considering their pit stop situation soon and how they can either gap the guys up ahead of them with an early pit stop or try and break this race into thirds at this point.
Yeah, and that's almost what I was thinking, was maybe the thing about breaking into thirds, like you said, because we'd be right about at that point here, probably about, again, 42 or so would be right on that number. Again, it's that risk versus reward. Do you want to try to get those fresh tires and maybe try to do that undercut? Do you want to go long and kind of use the yellow as your gamble and go for the overcut? But the field's starting to spread out, though, right now, Andrew. You see Jari right now 5th, about 1.5 seconds now back to Charles Teed. They've got a pretty good pack all the way back to Matt Wagner. Then you got to go to another 1.5 seconds now with Michael Carrillo leading this pack from he all the way back to Bill Colley. So right now, kind of got 3 packs here with the way things have gone. So yeah, right now, like I said, I think tires are starting to kind of show and spread this field out a little bit. But like I said, I think now it's just waiting to see who blinks first.
And this is a nightmare scenario for someone like Matt Wagner, who dropped all the way to the back to try and save fuel and save tires for later on in the race. And now he's found himself kind of mired outside the top 10 and completely out of draft range for some of these guys. I believe Jim Brooks is pitting right now.
Yep, here comes our first pit entry. Smokes him pretty heavy on entry, but looks like down to speed. So that's job number 1 done for him. But again, now he's got to hope that all these guys play nice and don't have any hiccups.
For Porty.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's kind of expected. So Jim going for the short pit. I say it looks like he's going to bring DeGroot along with him here. Yep, they're going to come in right together. And, that's going to shoot Nick off a little bit here. But looks like both get in. Looks like clean. I'll say it looked like Porty got maybe a little hot initially, but I think backed it down. And looking at pit lane time, it was about a 9.3 second stop for Jim. So we'll have to see how these two compare. But that now puts Christopher to the point. And as soon as I say that, here goes Jari going to try to take the lead.
So this is going to be the danger territory where you're trying to make sure you hit nice and cleanly. So these guys that are pitting early are putting themselves at a huge risk for finding themselves a lap down and hoping that everybody else doesn't mess up on their pit in. Yeah, I'm seeing the chat light up right now. A lot of drivers are starting to pit, so it's going to be pretty busy down pit lane for the next few laps. So this completely rules out the fuel save for a bunch of guys.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And I say right now, unfortunately, after all that hard work, Jeff Heisung, I think he may have got caught with a speeding penalty. I may be wrong. We'll have to wait for timing and scoring to update, but I thought I saw him with the. Oh, actually, no, I think that was from him leaving pit road on the initial start. We'll double check that. We'll let everything cycle through to be absolutely certain. But right now, though, the big winner on pit road though has been Nick DeGroot. He is about a second quicker than anybody for pit road or for pit time. Pit lane time as well. Actually, he was about 2 seconds up, so really good job by him. But like I said, here comes a bunch of guys. Oh, we got contact. We might have trouble. Caution may come out here. I saw some damaged cars there, so we'll have to keep an eye. And yeah, caution is indeed out here, and that was the risk of that yellow. And we'll take a look and see. But I think it involved Eric Peterson. And I'm not sure who he had contact with, but we'll go back and we'll take a look.
Yeah, Cal, as I mentioned, it's one of those situations where everyone's pitting. There's going to be issues, especially if people have been just kind of sitting in this lull for a while. And now suddenly everyone's pitting and you forget what you did about 20 minutes ago. So let's watch what happens here.
So you see down the bottom, he actually gets in really hot compared to, I think that's Putsky. And yeah, it just gets right into the back of him there. So, and again, that's just two different entering speeds. Eric Peterson either may have gotten too hot or was, actually look behind there. That is, I think the caution actually at this point is actually probably Michael Carrillo. So we're going to back it up one more time here. We'll take a look at Michael. Oh, look at this. I think this is contact between he and the 5. If I'm not mistaken, Richard Sanchez. Yeah, it is. I wonder if this was maybe, can't tell if this is a pit attempt or not, or because, I mean, I don't know. That looks like an odd one to me, but so you see the contact there, and then from here on, Michael's just trying to get his car gathered back up, and yeah, just completely locks it down and then starts. I think that's what brings out the caution, actually. To see drivers just trying to sneak by. Look at Jari Brupacher, they're just trying to sneak through as well. So a lot happening under that caution, or yeah, to bring out that caution, I should say. Now we got to go back current though, because we just had pit stops here, and it's going to be Craig Forsyth that looks like is going to win the race off of pit road. And then we're going to have to try to catch up on who is where and who's kind of had what happened to him on this one.
It looks like, all right, I have a couple comments here. So the Putsky-Peterson situation, just watching it on the replay there, it almost seemed that Putsky was out of fuel. He was going so slow on the pit entry, much slower than Eric anticipated. So in my opinion, that's a racing incident as far as trying to make sure that you get down the pit road in a safe way. We watched a bunch of people trying to push there, but Putsky is going about 40 miles per hour slower than Peterson. So Peterson had almost no time to react there. So unless Putsky had an issue trying to get down onto the apron there, I don't really see how that's Eric Peterson's issue, where he's trying to make sure he gets a clean entry. So a little bit of miscommunication there, but I believe you're right that Carrillo caused that caution. He was probably having his eye on what was happening down on the pit entry, and next thing you know, he's slowing down too much, and Sanchez kind of runs him over. So hopefully he doesn't have too much of a damage from that. But yeah, the other thing I wanted to mention here is that this happened in the middle of the pit stop rotation. So any cars that were on pit lane when the caution came out are going to have a ton of time and track position given back to them. So I believe that's why we're seeing the running order as it is right now with Forsyth out in front. He must have been on pit lane once that happened. So I hope that no one was actually entering pit lane where they might have gotten a penalty for the closed pit entry once the yellow comes out. We'll have to see how the admins handle this.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. You can see on the timing and scoring there on the left is you've got a bunch of cars right now, basically a tail end of the lead lap. So Nick DeGroot, I believe, yeah. So Nick DeGroot was the wave around car. And then from Eric Peterson on back, all of these guys right now are showing tail end lead laps. So from he all the way back to William Swenson in front of the leader, Craig Forsyth. So what should happen is once these lights go off of the pace car, or pace truck in this case, we'll see if they go off now, and they do. You're going to see the whole field here pretty much swing around this truck, and get themselves back onto the lead lap. The only two exceptions are going to be Casey Pahusky and Michael Correa, who were involved in that incident. But yeah, so after all that, all the strategies and fuel saving and everything, Craig Forsyth, Christopher, they kind of managed their stuff the best to keep that fuel number. And so now, what's the game plan here, Andrew? We're going to restart this thing on lap 52 of 125. That's too far. Yeah, that's definitely too far to go, I would say, to be able to make it from on a one-stopper. Because, I mean, that point, we're talking 75 laps roughly, 74. So what are you thinking? Split it in half, or do you run this first one as far as you can just with that potential risk of a yellow like we just saw?
I think we're going to see a mix of both of them. We are going to have guys that are really on the mega fuel safe situation, and we're going to have guys that go out to the front. So in situations like that, we may actually see the field spread out a little more with less chance of a caution, which would benefit those guys that are trying to save fuel.
All right, so now after this will be the first restart of the race. Again, the way the restarts work, leader has control. So this is where everybody's got to be on their P's and Q's and making sure they don't according into each other. As we are back green looking through the field, looks like a nice clean start. And actually got Jari Brubacher hitting pit road coming to green. So you mentioned potential pit road penalties. The 49 may be one that unfortunately gets caught on that one. But up front, though, Craig is going to now lead the way in that number 99 machine. And I'm going to go out and limb and say he's going to probably try to live on that white line as we saw Adriano do earlier this race.
I'm watching. This mid-pack is getting a little spicy. Yeah, with Craig where he is, you always mention him as a fuel saver, but when you're out front, it's very hard to do that. And I'm sure he might be watching how Matt Wagner handled his situation, and later on in the stint, you fall too far back to save anything and gain so much ground. So I'm not really sure what Craig wants to do here. We have a lap car up ahead of the leaders here.
I was going to say, this could actually open something up because this is now for Jari. This is tailing the lead lap versus being one lap down. So if I'm Jari, do I try to kind of act as if the leader? And that could actually be perfect for Craig because now he can just kind of sit in the toe of Jari, save fuel while having potentially the ideal track position already. I'm kind of seeing him. He's kind of leveled off a little bit off the 49 car. So I'm kind of thinking Craig may have turned the wick down a little bit in that 99 machine, just using Jari as kind of a nice toe here because it's just the timing of the drive-through penalty and everything's kind of worked out perfectly for Craig if that fuel save is his strategy right now while holding track position.
I think Craig is going to use every opportunity he can to save fuel, so this is perfect for him. He has no intention of putting Jari a lap down. I don't think he finds Jari to be a threat to beat him in this race at all, so if I were him, I'd say, great, there's a car ahead of me that I could just kind of hang out behind. But Chris Stouffer is not a fuel saver by any means, and as you see, he is really trying to work on him, and I'm sure Chris is going to want to get by him and also put Jari a lap down at the same time.
Yeah, so there's definitely something to be said about putting your competition for the race wins, for the championship, a lap down. The one question mark I put between Chris and Craig is they are both 40 Raceware drivers, so technically, well, I say, yeah, they're teammates, and not too far behind is another 40 Raceware teammate of Dan Morera, so I'll say they're starting to creep up into that mix. Matt Wagner, we talked about him dropping back early. I think he's basically scrapped that strategy from here on. He said, nope, I'm going for it now. I know I can't one-stop this thing, so let's just drop the hammer and get back to the front. Give the track position early, don't want to do that again. So I think we're seeing a different strategy out of that number 6 car as well. But yeah, right now, though, it's like I really think, because I mean, I've seen some times where Chris could probably try to do that crossover on Craig and cut underneath them. You can see how they're all kind of running a different seam almost here, Andrew. So I think we're seeing some teamwork between these top two drivers in the lead right now.
I find it so interesting that you've now started to look for that kind of situation now, and you're commentating. And after sitting with me for so long, yeah, these guys are all trying to figure it out. And I'm sitting with Bill Colley back at 14th. It is a blanket amongst the top 14 cars right now. And they're going to try and figure it out one way or another. It just hopes that it doesn't result in contacts for guys that want to try and get forward and guys that want to sit back and do nothing.
Yeah, so I definitely would. If depending where I am, I kind of wouldn't mind being in that sit back and just wait to see how things play out situation. Because yeah, I mean, I'm looking at this pack right now. You got Eric Peterson's right there, Adriana Forporti's right there, Jim Brooks is in there as well. You've got Michael Carrillo in that mix as well, Charles Teedsall, and they're all within hundredths of a second of one another. And so, I mean, but say you jump around anywhere, as soon as I say that, almost contact between, I think that was the 5 and the 66, Elmer Joseph on the outside. Really close quarter between the two of them. And then up here, this is a full-on gaggle right now with the top top 5 cars.
Let's not forget that Casey Puhutsky is the first car lap down. He's sitting right in the middle of this 7-car up front pack. So he's going to want to make some moves to try and get to the front of Craig Forsyth as well. In case caution comes out, he gets all his track position back. So I'm sure he's feeling a little bit disillusioned by that pit entry incident. So he's going to be making some noise here.
Yes, and like you said, I mean, I'm not sure how familiar he is with the open wheels. I mean, I know he's new to this series, but at the same time, like, this is a really good spot to just kind of get familiar with some of the front runners that we see up front at the moment. So I was saying, you can see, again, all the staggering. Casey's one of the few that we've seen pretty committed to the inside line, even in dirty air. So I really like what this 3 car's been able to do so far in this race.
I'm sure he's figured out a way to make his tire wear nice and even so that he can keep the car very balanced throughout the stint as well. So as long as he's been doing that for the last stint or so, he will have a good idea of what his tire wear might be like and where he might be able to make ground. But I'm sure if he puts up a fight to some of these guys up front, they may cut him some slack, maybe from the Dan Marrera P6 or P5, I believe he's in, right? Yeah, P5, Gary Lovern might cut him some slack, but when he gets up front, I'm sure these guys don't want to just give up so much time. But at the same time, more cars up ahead of you is better for the fuel saving situation. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's that double-edged sword, like you said. You've got the fuel savings, but then you've got the dirty air, so you kind of have to find that happy balance. So, like I said, right now, I think I'm really curious to see what Chris and Craig, how far they can go. It seems like at this point, they'll be able to go the furthest, or I shouldn't say the furthest on field, but they should be able to make a pretty good fuel number with what they've got going on. Just, again, really the earliest pitter is going to probably be Jari Brupacher at this point because he's one that's just kind of leading this train. I'm trying to keep an eye on to see track position-wise. I know we've seen Nick DeGroot. He's all the way back up into 3rd now. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see kind of who's able to do what. But also with the way that caution everything fell, I mean, there's some drivers that gained a ton of track position, like the 66 Elmer Joseph. He ran the strategy to perfection in his Sprite machine. Behind him, we saw Richard Sanchez. He had a little bit of a moment with what didn't bring out a yellow, but had some contact. He sits right there in 8th, and then right behind them, Brad Adams in that all-red machine. In 9th, I say those guys are +9, +10, +8 positions from their starting spots. So I think the strategy that they pulled, I say it worked out to perfection for them.
I have to say it's so much fun watching these guys in P11, 12, 13 try and navigate dirty air. It's just an adventure. I'm almost trying to, like, in my own head, predict where these guys are going to go. And every single time I try and do that, they do the opposite of what I would do. So unfortunately, these guys are just going to kind of be mired back here for a while. Jeff Heisong is trying his best to try and navigate as much of this traffic as he can. And some of these guys are really getting horrible runs off the middle of turn 3 and into turn 4, but they got to think outside the box a little bit, get a little more creative with how they try and take these corners to try and find a clean air. Because clean air is king back here. Eric Peterson messes up again at the exit of turn 2, and I think Heisong's going to have him in turn 3.
Yeah, now it's all for Heisong. It's going to be all about kind of who's where in front of them. And right now, traffic doesn't look too bad on the inside line, but it looks like, yeah, momentum is going to carry Peterson back ahead. The one that's been gaining a couple spots lately, though, has been Charles Teed. I think I've seen him get around, I think, Jim Brooks. Now he's around Richard Sanchez, also Adriana Forporti. So he's been slowly climbing his way back up there. Ooh, saw Peterson in the background there. Got really wide on the exit of turn 2. But yeah, I think Teed, again, we talked about him at Motegi last week. It seems like he's been able to find some nice adjustments to get that car a little better. And as soon as I say that, though, that 5, again, looking very strong on the inside line, but again, just seems like can't quite complete the exit speed. But you can see these guys all on top of each other here at a turn 2. Oh, that was close.
That was very close with Forporti and Teed there. So, Yeah, I'm looking at the Pohutsky situation. He tried valiantly, didn't really work out so well, so he's just gonna have to settle where he is right now. Unfortunately, I don't think these guys are gonna cut him any slack whatsoever.
Well, right now he's safe though, because I'm trying to find. You see where he is, like we just talked about. He's got about a second on Michael Carrillo, so there's the purple car compared to Pohutsky there. Pohutsky, apologies, in that maroon and silver car. So he's got a little bit of breathing room right now, and it's starting to grow because again, I really don't see Craig making a move here on Yari. So I think right now he's pretty safe. Truth be told, he's just got to keep an eye on that interval between he and the 29 and. Yeah, I think right now what we're seeing is just that strategy, and I think we saw from that last pit stop cycle, there's going to be very few drivers that are going to want to risk that short pit after seeing what happened earlier. So it'll be interesting to see, again, which drivers gamble. I think we saw Adriano be the first to pit, but again, I think that was by fuel mileage. But Jim Brooks is actually the earliest to hit pit road on lap 42, so he will have a little bit less fuel than the leaders do. Adriano pitted at 43. All the guys up ahead pitted at 48. So really, it could be the 51 again that we see one of the first to hit pit road. And you're talking about Jeff Heisong. He's starting to creep his way up there. He's got around the 51. He's going to work again on trying to get Eric Peterson here into one.
I'm trying to do quick math here, Kyle, during your talking, and yeah, so Craig, I'm looking at Craig, the leader specifically, and looks like he made it all the way until lap 47 before his pit. So honestly, I think that if they restarted lap 51, which is what it looks like it is, I think that they're good to make it with very minimal fuel saving here. So we're going to see one more stop from these guys, I believe. I think it's an easy fuel save here. So I almost wonder how much longer Craig is going to play nice with Yari. I don't think it hurts him too much because I think everybody else behind him is also doing the same thing. But one of these guys eventually is going to try and say, okay, game over. I'm going to go full blast, map 1. I have enough fuel to make it to one more stop easy, and I'm going to try and get to the front. So it's always kind of one of these mental battles of who's going to say, okay, I'm ready first. But the only issue is that the tire wear starts to kick in, so it grows a little bit more difficult as time goes on once the tires wear and you've sat for too long.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And the other thing is, like you said, they're really probably only going to need about, I would say, roughly 20, 25 laps of fuel, so nowhere near a full tank. I think tires are going to mean too much to be able to just do a splash of fuel at the end. If someone's feeling really like gambling, I mean, we could see it happen. But I think what we're likely to see is it's still going to be 4 tires and then just the bare minimum of fuel to make it to the end. And that's where I think if you're somebody that's maybe trapped in traffic and it's like, you know what, at this point, I got to try some sort of a gamble if we stay green through the cycle. And so that puts me back to like maybe a short pit or split strategy like a Jim Brooks, Eric Peterson, where you just haven't been able to get that track position that you've been aiming to get. I think that might be something that they look at doing. And got to give a quick shout out to my biggest fan, Darcy. Her husband's chiming in, letting me know that she says hi. And I say, I got the big question for you though here, Andrew. What is your opinion of the best frozen treat? Because right now the one comment I've had is saying the fudge pops are the best one. So I don't know if you have any arguments against that.
Yikes, that's a question I was not expecting to be asked in this podcast, but give me 15 seconds and I'll come up with something.
All right, that sounds fair. Yeah, I figure I'll keep you on your toes here, but right now we're starting to get that little breakaway as well.
Oh, we have a car on the wall, turn 2.
Richard Sanchez, he's still pointing in the right direction, so the whole field's by him. If he takes a tow, he may stay green. He does take a tow. We do stay green after all that, so unfortunately, I said we'll go back. We'll take a look. Michael Creo, I think, also had an incident here. I think he had to take a tow as well. I wonder if it's the two of them that may have got together.
I believe it was Swenson with Sanchez.
We're going to try to take a quick look here. If I can get it pulled. Oh, all right. Let's back it up a little bit. Yeah, you can see how tight they were running off each other. And, right rear to left front. And, yeah, big contact to the outside wall. And then Michael Carrillo, I think the same time, separate incident here. Let's go back on Michael.
looks like there might have been a gust of wind or something in turn 2 for these guys.
Yeah, because he had a little bit of a hit too.
But like I mentioned in the pre-race, that turn 2 wall, it's very, very deceiving how it creeps up on you. And as these tires wear, it becomes more and more in your face, as it were, as you kind of drift up higher and higher on the track. So turn 2 has gotten me many times on this track where you feel like you're kind of just riding the line up, trying to maximize the track distance. And next thing you know, oh, there's the wall that kind of curves in on the backside.
No, you're exactly right. And so, like mentioned, we pitted, drivers last pitted around 48 or so. So we're at 84. So we're right around that. If anyone wants to try to do a split strategy, split this race, or this run, I should say, in half, that window's probably about to open here very shortly. So it'll be interesting again to see, do we see any gamblers to try to make that strategy happen? Like I said, the two that I kind of point my finger at are the 58 and the 36. I feel like they have pace if they could get the track position. They just haven't been able to get that yet. So also, though, got to mention Adriano Ferporti. We were talking about Charles Teed getting around him earlier. I think Adriano had been taking care of his equipment because now he's starting to set some really quick laps and move his way back forward through the field here. 25.45 compared to 25.60s for the leaders. So I think the 072 here taking really, really good care of his tires early, now making the use of them.
Got our first pitter. Jim Brooks is going to be our first car coming down pit lane.
Yeah, so I'll say I kind of expected to see it. He's one of those ones where if he doesn't have the track position, he's going to do something different. So I'll say it'll be curious to see if anybody else responds to this. Again, he will go a lap down. So the goal, obviously, the hope is that we stay and we cycle through for him. Again, there's going to be a lot for that to happen, but we'll have to watch. I'm going to watch lap times once this kind of finishes and cycles. Once the pit stop, I should say, cycle finishes. Because the lap times, again, could be interesting to see how it shakes out.
Yeah, I'm watching the pit lane entry. I'm going to try and see if I can pay attention to the next person that comes in. By the way, I have your frozen tree answer, but let's get through the pit stops, and during our next stint, we'll chat about it.
All right, sounds good. So stay tuned. We have some important discussions here coming up that's non-racing related.
You bamboozled me. But,
I know.
I was able to figure it out.
Man, I'm nailing my strategies though right now here, Andrew, because here comes a lap later, Eric Peterson as well. So he said, all right, Jim did it. Let me try it here as well. So those are the two I kind of pinpointed, and they did not disappoint. They went right after that strategy. That or they're spying on me. I'm not sure which. But yeah, so right now we'll see what those guys do. Again, Jim is just one down. He's exiting two now. His leaders are about to enter one, so a little over a lap down.
Yari's coming in.
Yep, and that makes sense. Again, Bill Colley also on pit road, so he's kind of short pitting as well. Makes sense for Yari. Yari, again, had to burn the most fuel of anybody. You see everybody starting to get to the top to make sure that they have plenty of room to get around. And Yari's looks like a nice, clean entry for him. Locks him down. Should be good to speed. And let's see, looking at lap times.
Well, I'm watching the Forsyth battle right now. They're all good to the end no matter what now. So now might be Stouffer's time to pounce. If he's been sitting back here the long time, all the gloves are off at this point. Everyone's going to make it from here, so let's race.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. And I can tell you Eric Peterson has jumped Jim Brooks through the pit stop cycle. So move Eric as the first driver after pit stops. Lap time-wise, though, Jim ran a 25.62 to this 25.83, so it's about 0.2 quicker. I think he did have some draft that previous lap. I think Peterson will have had draft this previous lap as well with a 25.48. So this next lap, I think, for me, will be the telltale for Eric Peterson because this is going to be a full non-draft lap for the 36. So I want to see, because, again, he's heavier on fuel, but he's got fresher tires, so it'll be fun to see which is playing the bigger role right now.
40 Racewear is blocking out, icing out Nick DeGroot right now. It's clear as day that Craig is taking one line, Stouffer's taking another line, and Nick's like, please get out of my way. I want to go to the front.
Jeff Heisung on pit road, but yeah, you're right, though. They're not making life easy for him at the moment. Lap time-wise, Craig, 25.82. Eric Peterson, 25.39. Almost half a second quicker, so if this pace continues, oh, look at Nick. He's going to try to cut underneath at 13 here. He's going to...
He's trying to find any lane he can, and you can tell Casey...
Oh, look at dirty air.
He's right there. He's messing up these guys. It's definitely a 40 race where tag team situation right now. So I think Stouffer is going to go for the lead right now, I believe.
Yeah, for Porty on pit road as well. So Peterson, Colley, Jim Brooks, also Jeff Heisong hit pit road. I can tell you Jim and Eric Peterson have jumped Jeff Heisong. He went about four or so laps later than Peterson. So if we stay green, I'm kind of liking this undercut. Oh man, these guys are battling so hard right now. And again, this is all probably slowing them down a little bit too, as aggressive as they're having to be.
It is absolutely slowing. The way that Pahutsky is able to close on these guys on the straightaways, these guys are completely holding it up. Looks like Craig is going to pit this lap.
Charles Teed's on pit road.
Also going to pit.
Yep, so here comes Craig. He's going to duck on in and right on the line, locks him down, hopefully down the speed. You got a couple other coming in behind. Elmer Joseph is in there. Brad Adams. Matt Wagner's peeking in there. Matt must have lost some positions there because he's a little further back than I expected. So Stouffer in this time?
Stouffer's coming this time around, and Nick is going to say, screw you guys, I'm staying out longer.
Yeah, he's going to go.
You guys ice me out, I'm staying out.
So now he's got to make sure he gets that. Whoa, don't always see contact in the back there.
Contact.
Laverne into the back of Dan Morera, but they both stay pointed forward. Probably a fast repair for Dan, possibly Gary as well. But yeah, so right now Nick is the last, it looks like, to make a pit stop. So he's got this field pretty much a lap down right now. But again, I want to see how everything cycles through. Here comes Nick. So this will complete the green flag cycle. He's going to bring Casey on in with him. And then I want to see where everybody cycles through here. Because again, Peterson is the furthest up of those that short pitted by a fair margin. So I really want to see where this all compares. But now we watch Chris Stouffer as he rolls out of pit road. Where is Craig Forsyth? There he is right there. They should come out right together.
Yeah, everyone got kind of broken up here quite a bit. So big disparity on the pit situation here. We're going to see Craig probably convincingly in the lead right now, unless Stouffer can figure it out. I believe Nick is on pit exit right now. So I believe Stouffer is going to beat him out, but they'll all find each other again based on the draft situation these cars have. So I believe it's Craig out front, and then Stouffer, and then DeGroot. Yeah,
right now it looks like it could be a 3-horse race here if it stays the way it is, because like you said, Craig's got the lead.
Contact turn 4. Caution.
Oh, yeah. So I just caught it there in the background. Oh, more contact.
It's turning into more, yes.
And it looks like for Porty, Matt Wagner just sneaking by there. For Porty there, Brad Adams was the one we saw, I think, catch it afterwards. Well, to kind of take a look, I wonder if it's Dan Morera potentially.
It's one of the, like those. There was a 2-car incident with a group of 6 cars coming through turns 3 and 4. It's gonna be quite a wreck, as you'll see.
Yeah, so let's go back. We will take a look. All right, so let's back it down here. We're going to focus on Adriano here as they come out of turn number 4. Oh, it was like kind of going for the same real estate. It kind of looked like the 072 was kind of arcing it down, and then just everybody's trying to figure out where they can sneak on by. You see right there, sneaking to the inside is Dan Morera, and then
keep your eye out.
Yeah, I think we're going to see some. Oh. We'll stop here fast. We'll focus on Casey because I think I see what you were saying there. I see Jim Brooks going to sneak in the middle of them, and that's close. Oh man, right there. 76 of Brad Adams at that point. He's pretty much blinded by who's that in front of him? Jeff Heisong.
That's Heisong, yep.
And just straight into the back, and yeah, kind of launches himself up and over there as well. So. That's a tough one. Unfortunately, we saw them both trying to get rolling, but all the damage was making things challenging for them. So not what Adriano was hoping for. Can tell you also some strategy as well. Some of those guys that short pitted, they're back on pit road like Eric Peterson. And honestly, I kind of like this for Eric because now he's got a slightly fresher tires versus the disadvantage he would have had. But he's also still at least 5+ spots higher than where he was prior to this whole cycle. Same thing for Jim Brooks. So I think this is a really good strategy call for these two guys to run a little further. And trying to double check, I think Jari Brubacher, all that hard work finally paid off for him. I don't even think he had the wave around. I think he was still net tail in the lead
just
lap.
Just ahead of Craig.
So that would probably put this guy right here, William Svensson, as our lucky dog, puts him back onto the lead lap. So that's gonna kind of change things up a little bit. But again, it's not a big tire difference though. It's about 5 laps or so, and I think at this point track position probably a little bit more important than the tires to me.
It's gonna be kind of a wild finish here. Again, it's going to be too wide for about 4 or 5 rows deep the whole way back, and some of these guys on fresher tires are going to say, "Okay, I'm coming."
Yeah, it's a sprint race now. There's tire wear shouldn't come into play because we're going to restart with just over 20 to go. We really didn't see tires, I don't think, really show their issues until about 30 or so. So I think right now, I mean, Craig, Chris, and Nick, great job by all those guys getting in and out of pit road. I mean, they were able to stretch the gap over fourth by seconds. I think it was about a 3-second gap prior to the yellow. So, however, let me focus on Nick DeGroot here real quick, because let's look in front of him. There's 2 40 racer cars. Let's look behind him. Hey, look, there's another 40 racer car. He is between a rock and a hard place right now.
They set up the wall before, they're going to set it up again.
And now he's going to, I mean, he would have to regardless, but now he's got another teammate lined up around him that he's going to have to be, to me, they're going to want to try to see if they can lock out the podium. I mean, that's one of those things that you love to do as a team. That's just one of those kind of bragging rights situations. So it'll be interesting to see on that one. I said, unfortunately, I don't see Jim Herrick here tonight. I think he's been working actually really hard behind the scenes on some new stuff for 40 Racers. So definitely appreciate Jim for being here with everything he's done for the league. And yeah, so his drivers put on a really good show right now, and we're going to restart this thing with 21 to go, Andrew. So we'll see if Nick can make some magic happen. Oh, and before we go green, what's the answer for you? Nope, I think he had to step away for a quick second. Apologies. Good evening, Mr. Gary. You should definitely watch some Area 51 action. Glad to have you over here. If you are interested in racing this in the future, definitely check us out. Website is area51iracing.com. Let's say we're only in race number 2 of the season, so would love to have you. And I say right now, great car counts for tonight. We had 19 drivers start. Unfortunately, 2 early retirements, the 5 and the 29. 3 cars that lapped down the 072 our pole sitter, the 76 and the 3. 14 still on the lead lap. And now we're about to hand it over to that number 99 of Craig Forsyth. He's our control car. And again, he can jump as early or late as he wants. And looks like he's going to go a little late. Now we're down and away. Look at all the cars jumbled. Try to find that track position. And we'll get back to green. So here's the teammate strategy right there. You see Craig, he's staying to the outside, picking up Christopher, trying to give him all the tow he can down the back. Now that he clears Nick through, he jumps down. And look at the outside line there, Dan Marrera. Now he's going to get some draft off of those guys as well. That wall just got a little bit bigger here. Saw one just touching the apron there. Looks like everybody's able to get through fine. Like I said, right now Nick is stuck between a rock and a hard place here with 20 to go.
Yeah, the 40 race where guys are really working on it. We got Forsyth low, Stouffer middle, Dan Marrera high. They're going to be very tough to beat, and Nick is going to be very frustrated behind the wheel.
I say here comes the rim rider as well, Jim Brooks. He loves that outside lane. He will run that thing as close to the wall as he can. And that's what he did at the beginning of the race. He jumped a ton of spots and probably burned his tires up doing it, but he is right now one of the few going higher than anybody. You see Nick now, he's going to have to try to do something. But even right here, you see Jim, he got a huge run down the back, but does not want to give up that top lane as he flirts with that wall there, trying to find any clean air. Charles Teed, last week's winner, now he moves up into third in that number 50 car. Now up to fourth, I should say, as Nick DeGroot's back up to third. But yeah, these guys are all just trying to find any clean air. And like you said, it's a pack race here. It's a sprint to the finish now.
That's exactly what it is. These guys are, before we saw them kind of 2 wide hanging out here, they're 4 wide going through turns 3 and 4 at the bottom part of the top 10 here. I don't think we're going green the rest of this way, Gael.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen them do amazing things before, but yeah, I have a feeling there's going to be some contact, either just by a simple mistake or possibly two drivers we've seen before. Two drivers make a move in the same place at the same time. Unfortunately, we'll see the contact between the two of them because, yeah, I mean, right now, throw these guys under a blanket. So, but again, there you can see, though, just how high these guys are all just moving, trying to find that clean air. And yeah, I mean, right now it's going to be a tough chore for anybody to try to find a way around the top two because, like you said, they're taking up both lanes and doing a really, really good job with it. It's going to take a mistake really by Craig or Chris to try to knock them off those top two spots.
Teed almost getting to the side of Morera. We almost had blubbered into the side of Brooks. These guys are throwing everything on the table right now. So it looks like the top 9 have broke away from the bottom part of the top 10 here. Wagner almost got touched on the last lap. He manages to scrape free there. There's so much dirty air in turn 2. That's where the worst part of it is, and these guys are all washing up a line on the track. So just got to be mindful of the cars around you, and you'll make it through.
Yeah. So I mean, at this point now, I mean, what if you're in the position of a Nick DeGroot, Charles Teed? Is there a move you try to make to maybe get you to second or something to try to shake up these top two, or do you feel like you're just kind of stuck at this point? And man, the dirty area now, this is looking real scary.
Oh,
Teed.
Touch, yes. I want to answer your question so bad. Yeah, it's just frustrating, and you just have to reel it in. You have to have patience. It goes back to what I was saying early on in this race. You have to wear these guys down. Just guess right. Hope that your guess is better than their guess. They've managed to find a way to kind of block off the bottom and the middle lane. So you either have to kind of catch them looking in their mirrors on entry so that they mess up a little bit, and you could find a way to slide down and get underneath them and just break it up a little bit, or just be patient and just hope that either they take each other out or you find a much better way to kind of rip ride it and get faster there. But when you have two teammates that are working together that are probably talking to each other saying...
Oh, big crash. Oh, man, I think that's... nope, Eric Peterson we saw, yeah. And, oh, my goodness. These cars got little springs attached to them there, and Casey Putsky is well involved in that one. So caution back out. Peterson's going to try to limp this thing back to pit road, but caution is out. Just outside of 10 to go. Let's go take a look to see where this all came about. We'll start with that 36 of Eric Peterson. And I think we're going to see... dirty air here. Yeah, you see Peterson all the way to the top.
Boxed in.
Yeah, I think at that point the 3's probably got all the wheel he can. Oh my goodness, look how high the 36 goes. But yeah, I think the 3 probably has all the wheel he can cranked into it. Oh man, Bill Colley drives possibly underneath the 3 car a little bit there. And not a fun ride for Eric Peterson either, though. So unfortunately that brings out a caution. I don't think we'll see a lot of strategy up front here. We'll go ahead and jump back live and take a look to see. And yeah, sure enough, pretty much no takers. I like Bill Colley here. He was kind of towards the back of the lead pack. Why not get some fresh tires in on this number 31? See if you can make something happen there. So what we will do real quick is we haven't been able to show off our awesome sponsor with 4D Raceware as one of those. So we'll be right back. Stay tuned and we'll bring it to the finish.
4D Raceware, makers of the ultimate sim racing shoes and custom apparel designed for sim racing by sim racers. 4D racing shoes are engineered to connect racers to the pedals in a way no other racing shoe can, all the while giving you the comfort needed to complete those double and triple stints. Visit 4draceware.com and check out the latest sim racing products that let you connect to your sim.
All right, about to see lights go off of our pace truck. However, we got important things to discuss, and that's ice cream. So what's the frozen treat of choice for you, Andrew?
Mint chocolate chip Klondike.
You know, I can't really argue with that one. I do love me some mint chocolate chips. So, yeah, that's a really good choice. So I'm on board with you there.
It'll change your life. 100%.
Yes. Can't tell you, Adriano Fraporti back on the lead lap. So, unfortunately, it's bad luck earlier. At least catches a break here to see what he can kind of recoup. Again, our pole sitter tonight led pretty much wire to wire there, the first green flag cycle. Then, unfortunately, caution during the pit stop cycle kind of shook things up, and then involved with that incident with he and the 3. Unfortunately for Casey Putsky, that is evening over for him as well. So that'll be our third retirement of the evening. Eric Peterson 2 down, Brad Adams 1 lap down. And so now we've got a big dash to finish. And the other thing, of course, to mention is while we are Green White Checkered TV, the Indy Series, there are no Green White Checkers here. So basically, once we get into that, 3-4 to go, if caution comes out, race would be official. So that makes these guys have to race every lap a little extra aggressive here. So again, I remember this one we're going to watch off the back of Craig Forsyth here because, again, talk about that accordion effect. Everybody's going to get more and more aggressive. Does Craig go early? Does he go late?
Nick DeGroot has to jump on one of these 40 racewear guys in order to get anything done. Oh, and another 40 racewear guy times it perfectly somehow and gets back up into P3. So now Nick is really in trouble.
He's got to try to use that big momentum down the backstretch, see if he can get back around him. Gary Laverne, Charles Teed side by side. Gary's going to hang onto it. Jump back up front, though. Keep an eye on these guys. And I have a theory of that really good restart by Dan Morera. And remember the whole teammate thing we talked about?
I think it's the same thing I'm thinking.
Yep. Say, hey, let me count you guys down. Oh, look at Nick DeGroot.
Nick on the Ooh, again, he's got to do anything he can.
He took a gamble. He knew that was going to end in tears. He rolled out of it. That cost him a ton of momentum. Charles
up on
Teed.
the outside.
Oh, my goodness. That brings Gary now up into third. And you said Nick's going to have to try to do something, and he made a very aggressive move. It almost paid off, but he knew that was going to take 3 cars out there, so he rolled out of it. So, and that's just the veteran Nick DeGroot knowing, like, yes, I want to win this race. That's not how I want to win this race.
Yeah, but shout out to Gary Lovern again. He's proving week after week that he's figured out how these top guys race, and he's gonna win one of these races eventually here. Nick looks like he slide jobbed Dan Morera a little bit, and I think he might have figured something out here.
Yeah, so because now, with him taking that outside third lane, that's going to force Dan with some dirty air. But look how he's able to cut that thing down to the middle out of 2, steal some draft, jump back to the top again. And again, he can't quite get to Christopher. But then you have to wonder, we've talked about it, Chris wants to win one of these races. We're down to 4 to go, coming to 3 here. Is he going to, can Chris make a move here on Craig? Because he's staying pretty tight to the door of that number, well, not door, but side pod, we'll say, of that 99. So we'll see how aggressive do they get. Do they start to kind of squeeze each other maybe a little bit and see if he can kind of drop some momentum off of that 99 car?
I think Chris is in the awkward spot of playing wingman for so long that he needs to find the right moment in order to get some sort of draft off Craig while also protecting himself from Nick behind, because he can go from 2nd to 5th if he tries something. So I don't know. I know Chris wants to win really bad, but it's tightening up so much here that I think Chris's chances are now run out coming to the last lap.
Yeah, so coming to the white here, of course, that's the important part. If they can get to the white at that point, they will race back to the finish, and they do get to the white flag. So this is final lap here at Chicagoland. Can Craig hold off Christopher? Will we see Chris maybe try to do a big squeeze through 3 and 4 on Craig to try to see if he can get a win, sniff some draft? Or will he just make sure that they at least hold the top 2? There's the contact that we're worried about. Jim Brooks involved as well. Those 2 are going for it there. Gary Laverne's going to hold 3rd. All right, here goes Chris. He's going to sniff some draft. He's jumped to the outside. Will it be enough at the line? No.
Wow,
Craig
that was
Forsyth.
so close.
Craig Forsyth gets the win over Christopher. Gary Laverne going to bring home 3rd. Charles Teed follows up his win with a top 4. Yari Brupacher, after being tail in lead lap, finishes in the top 5. But unfortunately, though, we have to talk about the contact at the end. Let's go take a look, as that was contact between Dan Marrera and Nick DeGroot. And again, I think it's just those guys just going for everything here. So we'll take a better look at it here. And this might be a lap too. No, it's definitely not a lap too soon. We'll back it up one more time, get a better angle of it. This, I think, might be our best shot of it here. As a lot of times you'll watch the seams of the track. Of course, now it just changed. So what we're going to do, we're going to watch off with Charles Teed here because he probably had a really good view of this one. So we'll back it one more time. Apologies for this. But I want to try to get the best look we can of it.
Yeah, this is your typical scramble.
Yeah, everybody's going for the same real estate.
You don't know who's above you, below you, but the safest thing to do is just put yourself right in the middle. Just don't move, because even if you think you're clear, all you're going to do is mess up a whole line behind you, which we saw in the previous laps as well. So it's unfortunate that happens. Sometimes you're just nervous and you just move the wheel a tiny bit, and next thing you know, you're connected with another car. So it's unfortunate, but nothing penalty worthy there.
No, this is hard racing at the end. I say everybody's trying to make the move to get the best results they could, and yeah, not the way they want to finish it, but in the end, Craig Forsyth able to do some great driving to get to the front there at the end, and then was able to hold on to it. Like I said, obviously had some good teamwork from Chris. For a little while, it looked like they could sweep it with Dan Marrera. But in the end, though, say that contact and that promoted Gary Laverne there, who we just talked about. He's been moving his way up every week, and so he's moved his way up now into a podium here tonight.
I think that's his first podium, if I'm not mistaken.
It
right?
may be. So we're going to have to see if he knows what to do with his hands here in this interview. So let's first
hunt. Have you interviewed him yet? That's kind of the thing. That'll be the answer.
Let's hunt down this Gary fella. Haven't found him yet, so we might have to jump a little out of order. So we'll probably jump a little out of order because I don't see him in the Discord as of yet. So what we will do,
I'll see if I can find him.
Yeah, so if you want to hunt him down, what we will do is this fella. We'll start with him, though. And that is going to be Mr. Christopher. So we're going to drag Chris on in over here. So this is never the interview you want to give Chris. I know that. And Andrew and I were talking. This is probably one of those between a rock and a hard place situations because you're right there. You're going for the win. But you're also look like kind of working with a teammate to try to make sure that you guys kind of get the team win, if you will. I mean, take us through the race. I mean, you and Jim Brooks gained a bunch of spots early, and then obviously the pit stop cycles, the way everything shook out, you were able to save some fuel, get some track position that way, and then the pit stops under green. You, Craig, and Nick, I mean, you guys gapped the field during that cycle, and then from there just kind of kept the track position and yeah, I was just trying to figure out if you could make that second lane work. It looked like, I mean, what was the strategy there at the end, and could you or would you have done anything different? Have had the chance?
Well, that's a lot to unpack.
I gave you a lot there. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
Wait till I talk to you.
Oh, great. Always charming. Always great. I look forward to it. No. So let's see. So I started off. I didn't know if I'd make the race tonight. I already I told everybody that if I do make any races this season, it's going to be maybe one or two here or there. So I came in with late into the session, didn't get much practice in. I forgot to turn my wheelbase on before I loaded the session, so I, then turned my wheelbase on, and then none of the buttons on my wheel that were mapped out were working. So I reset it, and then go out on the track, get a few laps in, and then we get into the race, and I touched the brake pedal, and it's 0 to 100. So I had my brakes were not calibrated. Luckily I didn't wreck. Pitting pitting under green was very scary. I even lost the lead under yellow flag pit stops because of it, just because I wasn't certain, with the brakes locking up. So I had that to battle when we did pit, but otherwise, luckily when we're racing out there, you didn't need to use the brakes at all. So, I started off. I didn't want to qualify because again, I didn't have many laps in, and didn't want to be cause of a early caution or anything like that. And I just kind of rode the high side. I was trying to save fuel, and ended up around the top five. Um, I was able to go long because of saving the fuel and gained the track position, which is very nice. And from there, me and Craig just kind of held down first and second. It was certainly, Craig had the lead at that point, so it was, you hold the line, and I'll try to hold them off. And we did, I think, a perfect job of that. We tried to get Dan up there to be a part of it, so we get a 1, 2, 3 for the team. Um, at the end, I tried to get a run coming off of four, so I could try to pip him at the line. Um, I could have got a little bit better run, but at the same time, yeah, I mean, overall, it was a good race. I had fun, and I'm happy with the second. This is certainly a team race tonight, I would say.
Oh, Chris, you answered like every question I was going to ask you all in one
Ha 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 ha
soliloquy.
ha ha
My
ha.
goodness. So, okay. So I'll start off. I'll just talk for a while. How about that? I'll just take my
Sounds
time to
good.
talk. So,
Sounds good.
I tried to sign onto my computer, and I also had problems trying to get my sound to work. My headset's been kind of flaky for the last couple of days, so I totally feel where you're coming from. Spent like 5 minutes of my time saying, "Hey, I can't commentate tonight because I can't talk and I can't hear." So that's one part of it. So I feel you there. Uh, I guess the one thing I'll pick on you with is that you did mention that, like, yeah, I'm done. I'm not going to race anymore. I think I've tried enough times to win and didn't quite get that win, and you kind of backed that up with another second place finish tonight. So uh, yeah, did you have any tricks up your sleeve for that last lap? Because I did mention to Guile that, like, hey, you're in a spot now where you're kind of boxed in on every line because you have Dan that's trying to make it a 1, 2, 3 finish. You have Nick that tried 750,000 things to try and take the lead and he couldn't do it. What was your strategy to get that race win tonight? Or did you just say, okay, I'm wingman tonight. I'm just going to let Craig win it and get a good race team finish? Because you did mention that in your little speech there that it was all about what the team had. So were you a team player tonight, or did you really want that win?
I would say mostly I was a team player tonight. There was several laps where we're um, behind that lap car, and I could have used him as a pick, and got the lead that way. Um, and then coming to the line, you're right in the fact that I was certainly boxed in. I couldn't go high. I couldn't get as much space as I needed to get a proper run, but it kind of opened up because I saw a wreck there in my rear view, out of the corner of my eye, and I knew I had a little bit more room. I just didn't know how much. So, again, if there was anything I could have done differently, it would have been, get a little bit better run so I could have pipped them at the line. But at the same time, considering I'm not going to run a full season, and I have no problem with my teammate winning. Um, and it was certainly, you know, we said it as soon as we went green on each one of those cautions. It's time to get in fighter formation. Um, just right there, stagger 1, 2, 3 if we could, and just block off the front row. But like you said, Craig did, or not Craig, but Nick did, a million different things trying to get up through there, and he was certainly one to watch. But I knew he wasn't going to try to stick it in between us and wreck all three of us or anything. There was one moment where I think he went down low. It kind of scared me for a second, but I know he wouldn't have took us out like that. So it's good having guys around you that you have confidence in that will make the smart move at the right time, I guess.
Really quickly, you mentioned when you were behind the lap car that was Yari. So, uh, talking about your future race situation when you had Yari pit there, uh, did you have any indication to say, okay, I saved my tires and my fuel behind you, Craig. I'm gonna go to battle now because that's how I called it once Yari pitted and you guys were released to go. Did you have any opportunities to try and make the pass there, or was it still just I'm gonna sit behind and save fuel and see what happens after the pit stop?
Unfortunately, no, it wasn't that exciting. It was, I'm just going to sit here and say fuel. Again, I started in the back. I made my way to the front. I just saved fuel. We had that caution under the in the middle of that first pit cycle, so I came back out and the same thing. Just sit here, save fuel. No reason to race really hard, especially teammate for the lead. Um, you know, again, did I have my chances? Yes. Did the thought, creep into my head from time to time? Sure. But again, it was about the team and about what was happening at a given point in the race, and I was very content and very happy just sitting there. You know, kind of playing blocker for my teammate, so he could have as easy run as he could on the inside, and hopefully if roles were ever reversed, I would think that he would do the same for me. So again, it's a team win. Um, I'm not saying I didn't try at the end. I could have tried harder, but at the same time, I'm not happy. I'm not mad at getting second place. I know I got second place like every race that I finished on the podium last season, and it became kind of its own meme. But there's worse places to finish.
Yeah, I'd say it's still a good night overall, man. So before we let you go, definitely want to give you the floor for any thanks and shouts for that runner up tonight, though.
Well, first off, I will thank the wife for letting me race, and I appreciate that. 40racewear.com for sponsoring me, for being my teammates. They're excellent teammates. They're good to have around. Um, there's always somebody to answer your questions if you have one, and they got good products too. So, I'm happy to be with them. Again, you guys up here in the booth, thank you. I look forward to watching the race back and hearing you guys, and of course everybody for putting on the league. It's a fun league to race in. Hopefully we can get more people out here and get a bigger field for y'all. But I like the small field because at the same time it puts on good racing like you have tonight, where we only have two or three cautions. So you know, to all that, thank you. Have a good night.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
All right, that is Christopher, our runner up this evening. And we're a little out of order, but it's all right because we're still going to get him in. And that is going to be that number 32 of Gary Laverne. And Andrew, we've been pretty much singing his praises over the course of last season, this season, just showing his every race seems like just putting himself in a better spot, and then able to get the podium here tonight. We're not sure, Gary, if this might be the first Area 51 podium, but we kind of feel like it's been a long time coming, and so it just seems like you've been getting more and more comfortable to as the seasons have gone on and the races have gone on. I mean, is that what you feel too? Or I mean, take us through kind of how you feel like you've kind of been gaining throughout the seasons and then just through the race tonight too, because there was a lot happening.
Yeah, I'm still shaking. Good grief. No, when you race against guys like this week after week, you just learn, and that's what I've been doing is learning every week and getting better and better. I've only got a little over a year in doing this, and half of that was in NASCAR before I came to IndyCar. So, racing against these guys, you learn a lot.
Yeah, that I mentioned on the broadcast. I'm sure every week you see Gary that after a while, if you want to get better, you got to interact with these guys a little more too and ask questions. What do I have to do? Or maybe it's just watching a lot of replays and trying to make assumptions and conclusions on everything. And I can definitely make a similar sort of claim here because when I first started, I was like, how do I get faster? How do I get faster? I want to be faster. I want to be one of these top guys. And after a while, like you can only watch so much and you have to actually put yourself up there. And week after week, it seems like you put yourself up there and you put yourself in maybe some sketchy situations that you have to crash a few times to say, okay, I won't do that again. Is that kind of how
Exactly.
is that kind of how your learning curve has been? It's just like maybe I'll crash a few times and learn like, okay, that won't work, and I'll try something different next time.
Exactly. I mean, I've made a ton of mistakes, and you learn from them. You get better and better each time. You make a mistake, just don't do it again. And you get better and better. And I'm starting to see that a little bit, getting a little more confidence. Just like today's race, I would have been happy with the top 5. I just found myself in this position. So, yeah, definitely. I tell everybody out there that if you want to get better, join a league, race against some of these guys. You learn a ton. Just watch them, ride behind them, and it just makes your driving a lot better.
So when you talk about the confidence aspect, so last season or maybe even the season before that, when you first joined, you were always like a 12th, 13th place runner. Can you actually get better? Can you like speak to the people that are watching this saying, hey, maybe I want to join, but I'm not so good and I'm not sure if I'm ready for a league yet? Like, what would you tell someone that is trying to actually want to drive an IndyCar because they love IndyCar and they want to get better? Do they just join up and put themselves right in the fray and maybe crash 10, 15 times before they figure it out?
What I did was I went in there, like you said, I'd finish towards the back, but I would kind of race clean, and if that meant finishing in the back, that I did that, but I would race clean, try not to wreck anybody, definitely, and if I wrecked, I did it by myself, and you learn from that, and just watch and listen to everybody, and you just every race you get a little better and a little better, and your confidence builds a little bit more.
And yeah, I'd say, and I think only more growing from here, Gary. Like I said, we've been keeping an eye, and we've been noticing, like I said, progressively running up front more and getting the better finishes and all that. So it's been really fun to watch and be able to get an interview with you to be able to do all that. And I was saying the best part is too, now we give you the opportunity to any thanks and shouts for that podium, and say anybody you want to give some thanks to.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Jim from 4D Racewear for everything he does for league racing. I want to thank Alton Autosports and you guys. For a great job you guys do. I love your guys' content.
All right. Well, next up, we want a runner-up at least, if not a win. So we'll get some more interviews with you soon. But yeah, great job though tonight, Gary, and looking forward to seeing more of you on track this season.
All right, thank you.
We won't be happy until you're sitting on the top of the step of the podium there. So keep at it.
Hopefully soon. Thank you.
All right, that leaves us one driver left to chat with, and that's going to be this guy sitting on the start-finish line, and that is a Mr. Craig Forsyth. I mean, look at that beautiful picture. He's got the fire suit and everything. He's got this stuff down. Craig, it was some strategy early on. You made the field number work. Fortunately, timing of the caution obviously changed the complexion. But I mean, at that point, it wasn't obviously a foregone conclusion. I mean, you guys had to work hard to hold the track position, and then the pit stops. I mean, I think that's the one thing that stood out to me was you and Chris and Nick. I mean, you guys just were picture perfect getting in and out of pit road, putting a couple seconds on the field before the caution at the end. I mean, take us through the strategy early, and then I should have actually let Andrew start off the questions. I keep stealing his questions. I mean, take us through the race, and then the dash to the finish there.
The first run was exactly what we wanted. It's what we planned on. Was all three of us, me, Chris, and Dan, were going to stay out as long as possible. Chicagoland generates cautions from failed pit entries. So we knew that was the gamble that that would be the easiest way to get the lead without having to fight people for it. And then once we had the lead, it's really hard to pass someone on the outside as long as they're holding the bottom properly. So it's the first part of the race, the first cycle of the race, everyone was fuel saving, trying to be the person who stayed out longer than the other. Had it stayed green, the people who undercut or who went in early, probably it would have paid off for them. But that's just the roll of the dice that you have to take as far as strategizing these things. So it worked out really well for us. Yeah, no, the first half of the race, everything was dictated by that caution.
Well, luckily for Gael, I actually have another question that I had queued up ready for you. So I wanted to know, in that first stint, you kind of fell back from the pack a little bit. So were you trying to play with the fuel numbers a little bit, trying to see what worked and what kept you with the pack versus what made you fall back? because we definitely saw you fall back a little bit from that pack, and you probably were like, "Oh no, I got to run something a little bit more rich to get back up to the pack again." So, was it hard to run a very, very conservative fuel map tonight, or did you feel like it was actually good to run as low a fuel map as possible and still stick with the pack?
Yeah, I was changing the fuel maps, trying to see how low I could get it without losing the draft. And there were a couple times, there were a couple times that I dropped it all the way down to 5, and half a lap later I was already losing time. So it's like, okay, no, that's too much. And I really wanted to, on the first stint, I wanted to stay up. I wanted to stay far enough on the top line to save my tires, but far enough back that I'd have reaction time in case anything happened. So, because I generally don't like running the top line, because because of if anything happens on track in front of you, it's coming right up to the outside wall. So we were trying to play safe that way, until I was fairly confident that we now had more fuel than anyone else and could run it out. And that was the point where the three of us threw it into map 1 and just started going for it.
So you found an actual sweet spot where you're like, okay, this is a sweet fuel map right here where I can kind of just hang out and ride on the outside of someone and still get the draft down the back straight or the front straight, etc. Where you were able to actually take the advantage forward. And what point of the race did you feel like you had that settled? Was it like in the middle of the second stint, or was it really early on that you're like, okay, I figured it out where I had to actually ride in this fuel map and be successful in it?
Well, yeah, it was about 25 laps in. About halfway through at about halfway through the first run, we knew like the level of 3-4 changing with lifting that gave us the best fuel numbers while still sticking with all the guys in front of us. I mean, the second stint, once we had the lead, it was run the lowest fuel map we possibly could without letting anyone get by us, which is generally what you do once you've taken the lead like that. You just sort of, how little fuel can you use and still have people not able to pass you.
So did you feel like 1 and 2 was the worst side of the track, or 3 and 4 for keeping up with the cars ahead of you on the fuel map? Like, what was the worst side of the track for you in that aspect?
I mean, 3. I'm trying to remember now. 3-4 is the is. Yeah, 3-4 is the harder one to do, because the back of the track is the straighter portion of the track, so you have a harder entry into 3. Trying to keep it on the bottom, but it was fine. I mean, the setup that we were running, it held clean air and dirty air really well, as long as you had the weight jacker set properly.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously there's a lot to do and a lot to adjust and have kind of adjusted right to make, like I said, to have the car driving in all the portions right. And yeah, I mean, it was a really good job. Like I said, you and Chris were then able to kind of try to control the race there once you guys got to the front, which, like you said, you had to do some strategy and then obviously some speed to do that, to get to that point. So yeah, just a really, really good job tonight for you guys as a team. Like I said, close to almost pulling off that 1, 2, 3, unfortunate that contact with Nick and Dan at the end. Didn't quite make it happen, but so that, like you said, that's kind of the nature of some of these races, the way it's so tight with these cars as fast as you're going. So awesome job though tonight, Craig, and definitely want to give you the floor for any thanks and shouts for that win here tonight.
Oh, I got to thank Jim over at 40 Racewear. He wasn't able to be here tonight, but I mean, the rest of the team was here. I think Michael ran into issues early on there with a wall tap, and then got caught up in one of the accidents. And I mean, Dan ran a great race. It just one lap short, which I think we've all experienced at this stage of our racing careers. So it's unfortunate for him, but no, Chris and I, we once we had the 1-2, we gentlemen agreed to not push it too hard. So that's what secured the 1-2 for us. So good on him for racing fair, fair and hard, but with teammate in mind. And I mean, of course, you, Gael and Andrew, the two of you guys, thank you very much for doing the broadcast, and everyone at Area 51. I hope it was a good broadcast tonight. I look forward to watching it back.
Well, we had to mention that Dan had quite a restart there on the last restart to try and go high to get those guys up ahead of him. It kind of cleared out for him in such a way that he was able to get up there in third and make it that much harder for Nick to make the moves.
Yeah, the comm channel may have been open on when exactly I was going to ensure that we had the best start for the three of us as possible.
It may or may not have been open, as
I
Guyana
cannot
pointed
confirm
out.
or
It's
deny.
classified. But no, awesome job though tonight, Craig. We'll let you go and hang out with your teammates and go enjoy this one, man. And yeah, great job tonight.
Thanks, guys. Stay safe.
All right, Andrew, that is our race winner, Mr. Craig Forsyth. And yeah, we cannot confirm or deny the potential the strategies afoot there tonight, but good race though. I mean, I think just a couple of yellows, one the pit stop cycle, and then of course unfortunate contact at the end. But yeah, really, really hard fought racing there, and strategy came into play. Just again a little bit of everything all the way through a green flag pit stop, kind of like luckily I didn't jinx, and yeah, great job by these guys tonight.
I think that was one of these races that we just put in the back of our minds and say, hey, that was fun. Like, there was a lot of action tonight up and down the field. Guys like Matt Wagner that fell too far back and couldn't find their way back up front again. Yeah, those guys will be kicking themselves for putting themselves in a spot where they can't actually take advantage of anything that happened ahead of them. And it's always kind of a crapshoot with these kind of races. Like, you could make your way back up front again, or you could kind of fall back and see what happens from there.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting because next week it's going to be Atlanta, which I believe is the old Atlanta. I'd be afraid of them trying to do the new Atlanta with us, as crazy as that is. So it's going to be not a sister track, but another 1.5 mile track, very abrasive. And this time though, the backstretch will be a straight backstretch. It won't have that little curve to it, so it could really open up that exit of 2 as somewhere to try to pull a little bit of advantage. So it's gonna be very interesting to see how that race plays out. I don't know if we've raced here before, so might be a pretty big learning curve for these guys to manage. I think tire temps are gonna be the name of the game for next week, but only one way to find out, and that's to stay tuned until next week.
Yeah, the old Atlanta definitely has its own characteristics, and we'll have to see how these guys perform there.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. So as always, Andrew, always appreciate you hopping on and doing these. It's a lot of fun to do them with you. Everybody that watched and supported, as always, thank you. Like I said, Gary, I'm glad to have you over here as well. Glad Andrew was able to pull you in. And then, yeah, so we had some good ice cream conversations as well. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. So we'll be back on Sunday night to open up our season opener for the Area 51 Super Speedway Truck Series. Then back again here in 1 week's time for the Area 51 Dark Horse Series. And then Thursday night in just over a week's time for the Xfinity season opener. So plenty of racing coming soon. So as always, take care, stay safe, have a good night, and we will see you all on Sunday. Till then, take care.